Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Today is an All Man of Steel special report. Now the first story has to do with a slight spoiler in Man of Steel, so if you don't like spoilers at all, you've been warned. Now apparently Superman, while he's not the detective of between him and Batman, he misses something pretty important in the film. But I have to say, I missed it too. But word is that cryo chamber that's been opened on the ship that's discovered in the Arctic, you'll notice that Planet of the Apes style, he finds a number of dead Kryptonians who were killed in their cryo chambers. One is open. Now, I didn't think much of it. I actually saw the movie a second time over the weekend, and I noticed it a little bit more, but I was like Clark. I was like, meh, okay, whatever. Where's Jor-El? I want to ask him some more questions. But the rumor circulating around is that is actually the pod of Supergirl. She shows up in the prequel to Man of Steel, which I think a lot of us, I guess, are going to go back and pick up now, because apparently it's actually relevant to the movie. Quite the shocker when it comes to these prequel comics, when they make them for these comic book movies. But what do you think of that? Do you want to see Supergirl introduced that way? Do you think that maybe they should have delved into it a little bit more? And also, let me ask you this. If she is around in the cryo chamber, is this going to be a situation kind of like, well, why didn't Spider-Man show up in the big battle at the end of the Avengers? Like, where the hell was Supergirl when Zod threatened the entire planet and Clark had to fight them all by himself? I think that would cause a little bit of bitter resentment for why she decided to hang back and be like, let's see how this all sorts out. The other thing is that ship is as old as they say it is, 18,000 years. I believe is was the number they went with. While she's probably still ingenue age, because this is Hollywood, because she was frozen in time, that still means she was born 18,000 years before Superman. So even if they are related, I think that's far enough. This could be a potential, well, I don't know. I think incest is bad no matter what the length of time. But is that really going to come in? Is she really going to be a relative of Superman? Because it might be more interesting, I think, to have, give Superman the opportunity to maybe continue his Kryptonian race and be with one of his own people. I mean, I partially thought that it would have been interesting in this movie to make Faora the main villain, make General Zod a woman, and have a situation where Kal-El was tempted, and she argued, I think, somewhat reasonably, that they could continue the race naturally with free will for the people of Krypton. So I think adding Supergirl to the mix is interesting, but I think that Kal should ask her a few questions if and when she does show up in the sequel. Sequel, yes. As was reported and we all discussed before Man of Steel came out, Warner Brothers is very keen on making a sequel. But at least so far, based on the box office, they are making moves at the studio, Wall Street Journal reported over the weekend, to fast-track that sequel. How fast? 2014, next year. The Wall Street Journal source said that would mean they would need to rush into production, shortchange themselves a little bit on their time for special effects to get it out in time. What's the rush? They want a Justice League movie in 2015. Yeah, they're still shooting for that. I have to tell you, as I've said in my reviews of Man of Steel, my spoiler and non-spoiler one, I feel very strongly that there are great ideas here, but the storytelling is rushed, and I think when the storytelling is rushed, it's because, perhaps things are rushed a little bit. People aren't taking the time behind the scenes. They're like, you know what, the script's good enough, let's just make this movie. So I think the last thing Man of Steel needs is more rushing, behind or in front of the camera. So I think that Warner Brothers, they should breathe a sigh of relief that there's such keen interest in their DC Cinematic Universe. A lot more Man of Steel news coming this week, a lot of analysis. But I think that they should, the last thing they need to do, and one of the people I interviewed in the audience review said this as well, don't rush just to try and compete with Marvel, because the best way you're going to compete is to turn out great movies. And while a lot of you did like Man of Steel, I have the feeling, based on what I'm seeing from Twitter, talking to people, my audience interviews, across the board, I think audiences are as divided as critics. And so, that's something to take into account. Third story. Over the weekend, David Goyer was also interviewed, because everybody wants to talk to everybody associated with Man of Steel, because bottom line, no matter what anybody thinks of the movie, it's big news. He said, this is not a Christian Bale Batman. He's not going to come back. I know we showed the Wayne logo. That was a nice nod to the Nolan universe, but everything starts with Superman. Superman is 0 point, and all of the characters will spin off of him for Justice League. He will be the focal point. I think maybe because he's the most powerful, that might make sense here. And also, I'll tell you later this week, but when I watched Man of Steel for a second time, I spent a lot of the movie thinking, Well, how is Batman going to defeat him if there's no kryptonite? Because that's like his signature move. But anyway, so Goyer said, no way is Bale coming back, not going to happen. Here's my feeling. If this movie significantly drops and doesn't hold up, Man of Steel in its second or third weekends, and it will still make millions of dollars, but if it doesn't reach the $1 billion club, which like at this point, these movies it should come awfully close. But if in any way it's disappointing, and as Entertainment Weekly surmised, perhaps they'll take a Downey Jr.-sized dump truck of money over to Christian Bale's house and say, oh, please, 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 please come back and play Batman. So that really, that's my final news story of the day. We had the first one was Supergirl. The second one was Wall Street Journal reporting Man of Steel 2 for 2014 and Justice League still for 2015. The third story is how important is Christian Bale and in the same vein, Robert Downey Jr. to these DC and Marvel cinematic universes? How important are actors in general? Because, even though I thought the cast here, even though I didn't think all the great ideas in Man of Steel were well developed, I thought the cast was good. And at a certain point, you just have to be like, this is my person. And, I asked people when I did Iron Man 3 audience review if they thought Robert Downey Jr. could be replaced, and they said, how are you going to replace just one member of the cast? You have to replace everybody then. You don't want to pull a Dark Knight where everyone saw Maggie Gyllenhaal and was like, hey, Rachel, and the audience was like, what are you talking about? Or, when they switched Terrence Howard out for Don Cheadle. Those are minor characters. Unfortunately, War Machine is a minor character, I think, the way he's treated. But you can't just have James Franco show up at the next Avengers 2 and be like, hey, everyone, I'm Tony Stark. Everyone's going to be... I don't think audiences will accept that. So, what do you think? Do you want to see Bale return? Would you get out that checkbook if you were Warner Brothers? Do you think someone else can take it on? And do you think Man of Steel is 2014 too early? Do you think the Man of Steel should he be the focal point of the Justice League in the DC cinematic universe, or should it be Batman, who is by far and away still the most successful character cinematically? And I have to say, in the comic books as well, sales there as well. That's what drives readers. And Man of Steel might be the first, but he's not the most popular guy. All right, so last thing, quick question, one of your questions. I'm going to take one actually from the Man of Steel audience reaction. A number of you, I answered this actually in the comments, but I wanted to make sure I talked about it. A few of you said, why didn't you ask any women what they thought of the movie? And I'll tell you, women usually, there are two reasons that women you'll notice, almost never do audience reviews on Beyond the Trailer. The first is that women don't tend to really go to the movies early on Friday morning. We're covering shows that play at 9:30, 10 a.m. I don't know what women are doing that men are not at that hour, but it's mostly single guys who go by themselves. I don't know their dating status or marital status, but guys who go by themselves to the movie in the morning. That's usually who's there. And also most willing to talk, because there's nobody else to talk them out of it. I will tell you this, one of the most common occurrences on Beyond the Trailer is a guy will say he wants to do the interview, and then his girlfriend, he'll be like, hey, is this cool, you want to do it with me, or will you wait a second? And I would say almost every time the girlfriend says, don't do it, and pulls him away. So not only are they not doing interviews, but they are stopping others from doing them as well. The second big thing, though, is that almost every time as well, when a woman does consider doing it, she always feels she doesn't look good enough to be on camera. We've often said, what are you talking about? You look great. Also, she is being seen by people outside already, so I don't understand sometimes the logic in that. But, women are much more concerned with their appearance than men. So, interesting. And my third theory, actually, on this real fast is that I feel you guys know that the comments section can get pretty brutal, especially on a comic book movie, especially for a DC versus Marvel movie situation. And I think a lot of women just don't want to get involved with that. And I think they feel that people won't take their feeling about a comic book movie, their opinion, seriously. I mean, I even had one of you write that you did not really talk about being a comic book reader in public because you didn't really feel you get the support. And I think that's tragic. That's an answer I don't accept. And if you're a woman out there and if you enjoy comic books, great. They're female characters. They're comics are for everyone. And you talk about comics and don't let anyone bully you out of it. All right. Thanks for watching Morning Movie News. I hope you enjoyed this Man of Steel special report. Look for more stories throughout the week. And thanks for watching. Bye.